You know, I thought that we had an understanding with these movie companies that we were going to leave movies that were made like they were from 2000 to 2009 to the time frame of 2000 to 2009. But no, Netflix comes here. They start bringing us these trashy ass fucking terrible slasher movies that I don't want. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Hometown Ghost Stories Horror Movie Reviews. I am your very calm and tranquil host, Rob Coakley. Joining me, as always, is Jesse Wilkins.
Oh God, I'm so fucking nervous. You talk to me first during a horror movie. I don't know what to do with my hands. Talk to Dave. Talk to Dave.
I'm also joined by Dave Wilkins.
I wonder which way this horror movie is going to go. I wonder if we're going to like it or if we're going to.
I'm very calm. I'm very tranquil. I'm ready to have a civil discussion about the movie Book Club that is on Netflix. Killer Book Club, which, you know, makes a world of a difference for this particular movie. I'm just so excited to talk about a slasher movie from Netflix. So, yeah. Dave, why don't you hit us with a synopsis?
Killer Book Club, directed by Carlos Alonso Ojeda. 8 horror-loving friends fight for their lives when a killer clown who seems to know the grim secret they share begins to pick them off one by one. So, this was a Netflix movie, and if you like really boring, predictable, forgettable slasher movies, then you will love this movie.
Boy, this is the movie for you.
I don't like really boring, predictable, forgettable, cliche, just beaten to death tropes.
I wish someone got beaten to death in this movie.
Yeah,
at least something interesting would have happened then.
But this movie sucked. I don't have a single positive thing to say about this movie. I guess it was shot okay. It looked fine. The sound was fine, stuff like that. But
they needed an Alec Baldwin style shooting on the set of this movie. Man, this was awful.
There wasn't a single thing I liked about this movie. Now, number one, off the bat, I will say that I watched the English dub over version of this because it was in either Spanish or Italian. And the dub overs usually take the quality down a notch because you almost never get a good dub over actor. Sometimes you do, but you usually don't. So usually that puts us off on the wrong foot. It definitely did with this one. There were no likable characters. The acting was terrible. The lead actress was flat, very stale, boring character.
And unlikable, and the most unlikable of all of them.
The most unlikable of all of them. And part of it was she was really poorly written. Part of it was she was not a great actress, or at least didn't seem that way. It is kind of hard to tell with the English dub overs because you're not getting their voice. So it's not really fair to say, but you can tell when somebody is genuinely doing a poor job at acting. And the biggest problem with this movie for me was the terrible, abysmal dialogue. It felt like whoever wrote the screenplay never heard an authentic conversation in their life and based all the character dialogue on conversations they'd seen in corny action movies. It was just awful. Everything about this movie was awful.
So normally this would be the point in the review where I say, if you haven't watched this movie, we're going to spoil it, so you should go watch it. But I, as a human being, cannot recommend that you watch this movie. You're much better off just listening to us tell you about our suffering as we watched this pile of garbage. It was the most predictable movie I had seen in a long time. Shot fine, I guess. Acting was god-awful. Again, to reiterate your point, there wasn't a likable character in this movie and just so predictable. You knew right away who the killer was going to be. And it's so obvious.
It's so obvious who it was.
Still didn't matter. And it's, oh man, it is just the beyond, like, okay, first of all, it's a Scream knockoff. I think Rob mentioned that in the very beginning. It's basically a Scream movie, but not
really poorly done.
Really poorly done. So I got nothing good to say, man. Some of the kills were okay, I guess. I mean, but it just didn't. There's nothing that could have saved this. I got real Black Christmas. Was it 2018? The latest Black Christmas movie vibes out of this one. Where just 2019. Yeah, we're just like, is this supposed to be scary? You know, like the whole time you're just wondering, was this rated R, by the way?
It had to have been.
Yeah, there was. I think there was enough gore and swearing where it probably was, but that didn't even save it. It didn't even save it because it still wasn't. There wasn't again, we're talking about a horror movie, slasher movie. There was not a single moment in this movie where I was uncomfortable or even slightly scared. And I'm not saying that to sound macho. I'm saying that because this was a piece of shit and it just wasn't scary at all.
Well, the slasher wasn't scary. It looked like a child in a costume, or like the costume didn't fit right. It was baggy. The mask was stupid. It wasn't scary.
Yeah, it looked like they were in like an astronaut suit or something. It was really like poofy.
Yeah,
and,
it was
and
goofy.
Yeah, it just was not good. Like if you're going to do a scary clown, do a scary clown. Don't do a goofy clown. What are you doing? Clowns are so easy to make scary as hell, and they just didn't.
Cheaper than whatever this costume is that they made quite a few of too.
Right.
Just come up with a makeup design or like a mask design, like for a clown. It's so easy. It is so easy to do.
Clowns are scary by default.
Right.
There's like a natural fear. They actually talked about the actual phobia, which I don't know what it is off the top of my head. In this movie, they mentioned it. Yeah, they talked about it 3 or 4 times. Clowns are scary by default. You have to go out of your way to make a clown not be scary. Like they achieved that.
Yeah,
you're
they did that
a fucking idiot.
Did this by making it look like the original mascot to McDonald's, like just this big round smiley face. It's just not scary at all, and it was just like from the get-go. It was predictable. Once they started getting into the story, the intro of the movie is showing like John Wayne Gacy and like these different clowns. I was like, all right, this might be interesting. Cool, we got a clown movie, and it didn't matter. They threw it away right away, and I mean, right off the bat. So again, we're spoiling, but the professor is a creep, and he's getting chased around by this, team of students that decided to rebel against him and try to scare the shit out of him. Right off the bat, like they had this kind of weird scene where he's about to meet his demise and, obviously fall off a banister, and it's going to look like an accident, but they're just so predictable. They got more than they bargained for. Oh my God, we accidentally killed a guy. Who didn't see that coming from a mile away? But you had this weird scene where like the one that ended up being the killer or whatever, like stabs him in the face or punches him in the face or something.
Punches him in the face.
Hits him with the hammer or the claw hammer or whatever. And he's bleeding, and it just didn't matter because like 2 seconds later he falls off the thing and dies. And they
accidentally falls off the thing and dies. That's the big problem with this whole scene, is he's like at the end of the movie. So I'm just going to jump to there. He's like explaining the plan. He's like, and everything came together exactly how I planned. Your plan was to punch him in the face and hope that he accidentally tripped backwards over the railing and onto the sword. That was your plan. Great job, Ben. I'm so glad that worked for you, because that's not a fucking plan.
No, it wasn't a plan, and it was so stupid because his plan was like for him to see her, and then what's that going to scare? Like you planned that him seeing her would scare him off a railing, because that's a big gamble you're playing right there. That I don't think your plan's going to work out 99 times out of 100, and it was just so stupid. And also, like, she's just in the heat of the moment. She's on the 3rd floor out at the balcony trying to figure out how to put on her mask.
Yeah, why weren't you ready? What are we doing?
Everyone else had their mask on the whole time.
Yeah.
How long have you been on the top floor, sitting out on a balcony, fumbling with your costume? What a weird place to. Wouldn't you do that?
Put a hat on?
Okay,
have you ever put anything on? Have you ever worn clothing, you idiot?
But let's just look at that scenario. Everybody, you and all your teenager friends walk into this, virtually abandoned building to go scare your professor. They're all putting on their costume. They all have on their mask. Where are you going to try to put on your mask? Is it going to be right when you walk into the building? Or are you going to, for no reason, climb up 3 flights of stairs, go out into this balcony situation, sit down on the floor of the balcony in the wide open? And is that where you're going to decide to put on your costume? Or are you going to put it on right when you walk in the fucking door?
Or before you walk in the door?
You're going to put it on right away. No one's climbing up to the roof to figure out if their mask works. Like it's just there's a lot of logic flaws right off the bat, and I was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah. The one thing that we did mention, that it is like a Scream knockoff, but not only is it a Scream knockoff, whoever wrote or directed or both. I didn't see if it was the same writer and director. This was also a I Know What You Did Last Summer knockoff.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing.
So it has both elements of Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. So this person liked those two movies, and of the movies that came out around this time frame, I mean, Scream's a little bit earlier, and so is I Know What You Did Last Summer. These are late 90s movies, but these were the movies that they liked. They were like, I want to make these two movies. So they just throw them in a blender, come up with a story around them. I actually didn't hate the idea of like the online book being written as the killings were happening. I think there is like a bit of an interesting premise there. I don't think it was implemented at good or well or even close to good at all by any stretch of the imagination. So don't get me wrong there. But they butcher it. Every kill, this movie's 25 years, made 25 years after those two movies. I understand it's low budget, but the gore doesn't look as good as those two movies. They did all CGI on this for the most part. And when it wasn't CGI, it literally looked like red food coloring, like in the pool of water. Like everything was just shit. We're going to talk about more logic flaws. The other one that like just makes no sense is the carnival or whatever the hell they're at, and everyone's wearing this clown costume. Like it just wouldn't happen. Like just because an influencer told them all to wear it, like wear this clown costume to this thing. Like nobody would do that. It wouldn't happen. He wasn't a big enough influencer. This isn't fucking Jake Paul out here telling people to wear this costume. And even if Jake Paul told them to do it, how many people are actually going to show up to it wearing that costume? Not as many as they showed in this goddamn thing. Like it was so stupid. They were trying to do Scream 2 when people were all wearing the Scream costume, but that made sense because it was after the quote unquote Stab movie came out, and they're following the movie, they're buying the merchandise for the movie. This shit made no sense. Nothing in this movie made sense. Characters, we always make fun of them in horror movies for doing stuff that doesn't make sense. This movie takes the fucking cake for that. Like the one scene where the girl's running away and she's like on that platform above where the killer is. Her first move is to run to the stairs where the killer can come up.
Yeah, to kick him, right?
She literally ran to the staircase.
This was like that like Geico commercial or something like that, where it's like people that do dumb shit in horror movies and they run into like the shed with the chainsaws. This is what she did. She runs into the abandoned building and runs upstairs. Like all of us are like, seriously,
like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing here? Like, we need some sort of more logical sense going on within this movie. I want to like it. I want to like all slasher movies. I think they're fun. I think even bad slasher movies are fun. Like when they're really poor. This isn't poor. This is just shit. Like this just sucked. It wasn't fun. To Dave's point, none of the characters were fun. You weren't rooting for any of the characters. The decisions were poor. The killer sucked. The killer didn't make any sense. All of the twists and turns were like relatively obvious. They didn't surprise you one bit.
No, they were either really predictable or they were so just like, who cares? Like they're trying to throw something in that was going to make everybody say, "Oh, I didn't see that coming," but it was just so off the wall that it was like, "Oh, okay, who cares?" Like that was stupid. So it was like there was no like artful implementation of any sort of unpredictability.
Yeah, it was so bad. So that was my little rant. I'll let one of you guys pick up the torch on this and rant a little more about it. I don't know. Does anyone have any other redeeming qualities? To Dave's point, it was kind of shot well. Sound design was fine. It's like a watchable movie from that sense.
It was Netflix quality. So with a Netflix movie, you know that you're going to get a high production value for the most part, right? It's going to be well produced. It's going to have, whether you like the score or not, it's going to have good sound quality and all of that. So it's with a Netflix movie, at least you have that. But usually with Netflix is the movies, at least for horror, are so bad, which is surprising because a lot of their horror series are really well done. And a lot of their movies that are not horror are pretty good. But for whatever reason, their horror movies are so bad.
Yeah, Hush is the only one I can think of.
I did like Hush. Yeah,
Hush is the only one I can think of that was actually a really good for Netflix movie.
Right,
it's become a bit of a meme that Netflix just doesn't make good horror movies, and a few are gonna a few are going to be fine, but there's way too many misses for it not to become a thing that Netflix does one. Rob, you mentioned earlier that they might have had a limited budget. This did not strike me as a movie that had a limited budget. And as much as I just tried to search online for the last 10 minutes, I cannot find the budget for this movie. Do you know if they were actually on a budget here?
I'm not sure, but I mean, just based off their CGI, like blood and stuff like that, and then the food coloring in the water, they clearly, any budget that they had, they put into the costume design for the killer, and that was a gigantic miss.
Yeah, if it's Netflix, I don't think it would have been a super limited budget, but I don't know. I guess exactly how that works. Here's one thing that
they might have just picked it up too. You got to remember that Netflix will just purchase already made movies for distribution in the States, and this is a foreign one.
This just felt like a Netflix movie. It really just did. Like, I think I texted you. I was like, if I didn't know this was a Netflix movie, I would still know this was a Netflix movie.
Yeah, not that. So the look of it looked like a Netflix movie, but I do think if Netflix chose to produce this, they probably would have just done it in English. So that makes me think that maybe it wasn't. But I mean, I wouldn't put it out of the possibility that they would do something in Spanish or Italian or whatever it was in. So
here's something that drove me bananas. Tell me if you guys picked up on this. Is at the end, the killer got revealed, and he's face to face with our protagonist, and he says, "Well, it's a bit disappointing when the killer explains everything," and then proceeds to explain everything. Like, I was like, "Is this a joke? Like, is this supposed to be funny?"
This was them doing the Scream thing again. It was just such a Scream knockoff. Do you like scary movies? This is ironically a scary movie. This is like, yeah, it was just such a bad Scream knockoff, and a little bit, like you said, a little bit like I Know What You Did Last Summer as well. But no, this is going to get a poor score from me. I don't know about you guys.
We haven't even talked about the dumbest scene yet. The scene where I just went fuck off. I had already said fuck off, to be honest, because this is towards the end of the movie. But when she walks into the room and the simp, which I laughed at, that's what they called him.
I did like that.
They called him the simp. While he was sitting in the chair tied up with the rope, right? Like, it's all a ruse. And he just gets up and goes, ha! And like throws the ropes off. Like, if she didn't pick up on the fact that the other, that's exactly what he did. Like, if she didn't pick up on the fact that he was the killer, and she went to untie him and he's not tied up, like, was that the plan? Was for him to reveal himself at that point? Like, what was that? Like,
yeah.
it just made no sense to me. Like, what is the play here? Like, what is your play?
What I found funny about that scene was, like, we all already knew that guy was the killer, and then when she walks in and he's just sitting there tied to the chair, I'm like, okay, he's definitely the killer. Like, this is the obvious setup I've ever seen. It was so corny. Another flaw that I found in this movie is maybe halfway through, maybe a little more than halfway through, when I think they were at the carnival, and the killer was streaming, and they're watching the POV of the killer stream, and he kills somebody on the stream, and they're all like, "Oh my God," and they freak out and they're running around. They still continued to blame each other for being the killer after that. It's like, no, dude, you all watched it together.
Yeah.
How did you not at that point figure out, like, all right, none of us are the killer? It was huge. Yeah.
And you can't figure out where they are while they're streaming. They're like, they're staring at you. They ran the wrong direction the first time. They go, oh no, actually they're over here. It's like, you don't know what you're looking at. You can't figure that out, you idiot. You don't know how to look at a landmark. It was fucking mind blowing.
It also, the idea of run away from festival with lots of people into abandoned building. It's mind boggling that this passed as a plot for a movie. It's not good.
Nope.
Yeah. I mean, like, again, if you had told me this premise where it's like, there's this book club that meets, they get into this situation. It's like, all right, I know what you did last summer situation. But the killer is writing a book, highlighting each kill as he does them. That's online for people to read. Like, all right, well, kind of actually sounds interesting. Mm-hmm. So I can buy that. But then you brought me this piece of shit movie. Like, I would be like, nope, we're not putting this anywhere.
It did sound interesting the way that they laid that out, though. Like the idea of the website being updated about the next kill or the kill that had just happened that they hadn't really found out about yet. It was pretty interesting. For the first few, the bodies were just disappearing. Like, why not let those bodies be found? You're posting about it anyways.
I was going to bring
I'm sick
this
of
point up too.
I'm sick of trying to make sense of these things, but it's just so dumb.
The other one that drove me crazy is they're following what the book says for one of the killings. And it literally says in the text, they read it out loud. They're like, and they went through a hole in the fence to the next place. And they're like looking at the fence and like trying to figure out, where do we go next? It's like, you just read it. And then they finally go through the hole. It's like, you just read where to go. You just literally read it out loud. Why are you acting like you can't find it? You're following the directions from the book. It shows you right there. You fucking idiots. I hate this movie. I hate everything that they did with this movie. It's so goddamn stupid. Like, give me some logic here. Like, if you're going to literally say where you're going, just go there. What are we doing? Idiots.
I hated some of the, oh, sorry, if you had more on that point.
I was going to say just the need to add in a second killer, just so unnecessary. And again, just so predictable. It's like, oh, guess what? And this girl who's also in the group is one of the killers. It's like, this has been done so many times before. Mm-hmm. We all saw it coming. Yes. Oh, shocker. It ended up being the two characters that are in the group of friends with the least amount of dialogue.
No, the girl wasn't in the group of friends.
Pretty sure she was.
No, she was she was from the beginning, that opening scene.
Doesn't matter.
Which was obvious too, though, by the way, that she was going to be one of the killers.
What the fuck was the ending? Like the very ending when they like a year later and they're in their school and she's walking and then she sees the killer dressed in the clown garb and it takes the mask off and it's the girl with the half-burned face and she charges her. Did that really happen? Was that her imagining things? I imagine it was her imagining things.
Oh, dude.
Because everybody disappeared.
Tale as old as time. They can open the second movie with this, with her waking up to having this nightmare of the killer, and then the killings start over again. They were sequel baiting at the end, and that's how they would open up a sequel. Please don't make a sequel. Netflix. Look at me, Netflix. You over there, Netflix. You can't do it. You cannot make this sequel. Please, for all of our sanity. The original was really, really bad. If you make a sequel to this movie, I am going to cry, and I am not going to review it. I'm probably going to review it. I'm probably going to have to review it, but please don't do that to me.
Look at me, Rob. Look at me.
Looking at you.
The next time you do a close-up, please bring your microphone with you. This is a podcast. I'm going to have nightmares about that.
Sound design. Get the sound design people from this movie to fix it.
It's the one thing they had right. We need their help.
Yeah. Well,
I hated the stupid little symbolism things they tried to put into to try and be artsy and symbolic. Like when she's standing there and he's going on his killer monologue and she pulls the pen out of her pocket. It's like, oh, she's gonna stab the writer with his pen. Oh, okay, Shakespeare. You fucking calm down.
And then she makes him fall on the same statue that the other guy died on, right through the sword again.
Yeah. Oh, okay. This is a problem I had with this particular scene, and I'm going to sound like a psychopath. They really blew this kill. They had him falling over the edge of the balcony, and he's falling vertically, looking down, and that point of that sword is coming right at him, like a POV shot of that camera going straight down. They should have had him get vertically impaled through the mouth.
Skewered, absolutely.
But
speaking of through the mouth, I want to go back to the pen kill. Don't get too excited, Rob. All right. I want to go back to the pen kill because she stabs him underneath the chin through the mouth, would have gone right through his tongue. When he pulled that out, he would have been profusely bleeding from the mouth, choking on his own blood. At least bleeding from the mouth. Can we get him to bleed from the mouth maybe in that scene? Maybe a little bit of blood from the giant hole in your fucking tongue.
You know what they had? Nope. They had black ink all over his lips. From
so
the pen.
Stupid. Like all of a sudden he's just emo. Like that was it. That's all it takes. Little did you know. That's what they do. No, it was so stupid. Or like you don't think there would be some swelling of the tongue in that situation, and maybe he wouldn't be able to speak perfectly. And,
I was going to see if that's what the point you were going to make, because he perfectly articulated the next sentence.
Yeah,
Like,
He just had black lipstick on after that.
God, and how about the shot while all that's going on is you see the boyfriend coming from like, it was almost comical how long it took him like to get from the doorway when they're showing him. It just was like a 10-minute thing. I was like, is this a Key and Peele skit? Like where he's just taking so long to get over there to save her?
Also,
Like,
life, death, murder situations. People are getting stabbed and killed with a hammer and all this kind of gory stuff going on. And the boyfriend or the killer takes the time to be like, that's why we slept together. And the boyfriend's like, this, like, are you serious right now?
Yeah.
And she's like, it's not like that. It's like this conversation, there's murder happening. Murder is happening.
Yeah.
This conversation would have to wait.
Yeah. We don't care
Also,
about this right now.
When the four of them, right? The protagonist, her boyfriend, and the two killers are up in the balcony, and the one killer gets tossed over and gets impaled on that sword, and the other three people are standing up against the balcony. You had the protagonist, the killer, and the boyfriend in that order, right?
Mhm.
Killer in the middle. And the boyfriend turns and yells across the killer to the girlfriend and goes, "Run!" Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Oh my God. Just so many like logic flaws that were so easy to fix. I mean, the fire looked awful. The
Mhm.
fire effect. It was so bad that they just cut away from it quick enough where you're just like, yeah, they were just like, we know this is bad. We're not gonna
Acknowledge there is fire. Now we're moving on.
So do something else. You can't do it. Do something else. Do anything else. Have her
Supposed to be
use the weapon.
symbolic callback to the opening scene of the movie.
Yeah, I know, but that sucked too. So make it something else. God damn it. Like just everything with this movie just was garbage. Absolute garbage.
Mhm.
Did you know I had a girlfriend online? Shut up. Shut up.
Haha, that's why we slept together. Maybe we are doing ourselves a disservice by watching it on like the English dubbed over. But
It's still such bad writing. You're in the
Like this-
middle of a slasher murder crescendo. Everyone's dying around you, and now you're like, "You didn't? Did you? I did." Like,
I loved you.
especially like that conversation is not happening at that moment.
Yeah, never. Not in a million years. Nobody
Even
cares.
in the moment where they're about to have sex with each other, like the simp and the unlikable girl, and he just goes, "I have always been in love with you." And then it happens like, no, when the simp tells them that they've always been in love with them, they're like, haha, cool.
That's the deal breaker right there.
You're my friend. That's how you remain in the friend zone. I don't know.
I can't believe the way they dressed her. I think it was during the carnival scene. I just kept looking at it unbelievably. I was laughing. They had her in like this overly baggy puke green shirt with the overalls, and she just looked like almost like a good guy doll walking around out there. Like at the carnival, it's like this is early 90s gear that she's wearing through this carnival. Like, what are we doing right now?
Yeah, the clown of the dunk tank is probably like, hey, give me my overalls back.
Yeah, like who was the costume designer on this thing that was like, this is what this college female would wear to a carnival? Like nobody's wearing that. Like this is like late 80s Janet Jackson like clothing.
Yeah.
We're 30 years past that.
Should we dress her like a scarecrow? Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, it was just so bad. Like there's just so many things about this movie that just was so off. Like it's just comical. Like you're just laughing at how bad it is. We're probably missing a million more things too.
I'm sure. But who gives a fuck?
Yeah. Who cares?
Don't watch it.
Don't watch it.
Not on the list. All right. Hop into some ratings, boys and girls. I give this 0.3.
Oh, that's pretty low.
It's so low.
Pretty low.
Dave?
Yeah, I added it a half a star.
Yeah.
I don't even know why I'm giving it a half a star. I don't want to give it a 0. It's just
I can't give it a 0 because it wasn't Black Christmas 2019. What year was it? 2019. It wasn't that level of bad because there was not as many cringy moments, but this one was terrible.
I'm gonna give it a 1, like a flat 1.
Calm down.
Just because like it's actually, at least it's only 90 minutes. The
felt longer.
production it did feel longer. At
I
least
kept checking the playtime, like, dude, just there's 20 minutes of this fucking shit
I,
left.
I actually paused it at halfway through, and I was like, I can't believe there's still 45 minutes left, and I've only been watching this.
We all did it. So I know we do this as, you know, for the channel and everything. This one really felt like work. And thank God it was only 90 minutes, but it really felt like a job. That's why, like, about 20 minutes in, I was like, ooh, this is really, 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 really corny with the dub over. I should switch over to Spanish or whatever.
I did for a minute.
No, because then it felt even more like work, because then you also have to read.
So I'll give it a 1 just because, like, the sound is fine. It's watchable in the sense that, like, it doesn't look like, you know, a 7-year-old put the movie itself together. Just a 7-year-old wrote it and directed it. But, you know, at least somebody with some knowledge filmed it for the most part. So it's like a watchable movie from that sense. But, like, avoid this movie because it is not good. It is terrible. Don't watch it. It sucks. And if there's a fucking sequel to this movie in 2 years, boys, I don't know how we're gonna get through it. I don't know how we watch a sequel to this movie.
We're gonna have to, though.
We're gonna have to.
Yeah, we're gonna have to,
like,
if they do it.
praying that there isn't one.
You
Praying.
made it a thing. I don't know if there will be one. It's not getting great reviews, at least not on IMDb. I mean, 4.5 stars, higher than I would have rated it. But
That's out of 10, by the way.
out of 10, yes, out of 10. But I don't know if this gets remade.
I would not invest in such a project. Let's thank our patrons real quick for our VIPs. We have Allison V, Dakota G, Donnie N, Jeannie R, Jennifer P, Lisa J, Mike Blake, Mom and Pops W, Nick, Robert H, Demon King, and Inspires Gaming. For our Warren's Words, we have Anna C, Kath Q, Chris C, LGPS Founder. We have Cody G, DC, Elizabeth Y, Jake V, Janice Gray, Mar Fire, Matthew T, Papa Squatch, Rachel B, Sarah Cook, Steph A of the Church of the Stephanies, Stitch Kitten, Sydney B, the other Rachel B, Adam S, Al Capone. For our Ghost Pirate Mafia, we have Al Capone's allegedly poorly not taxidermied anymore, clothed folding bed. We have Al Capone's allegedly poorly taxidermied wife. We have Alicia Espinoza. We have Anthony Character Limits Be Damned T, Ashley M, Brandon W, Brennan, aka Major Archibald Butt. We have Captain McSlugs, Kobe0204, believes Adolf Peterson was a patsy. We have Crystal Quinn, Huska Castle, Huggy Bear, Joe R, Killer Cows from Outer Space, Kiralee J, Michaela T, Mina H, Mariah M. We have Nuthouse Queen, Paul from St. Louis, Pork, Sam from Nepal, Sarah R, Solar Flare, Scotty L, Soph, Hooper, the Big Spag Nasty, and Zeno is my homeboy. This takes a long time.
I want to give a special shout out to 3 of our patrons.
Nick, Paul, and Pork.
Yeah, I was going to say Nick, Pork, and Soph.
Yep.
Thank you.
The winner is DC. That's it.
Yeah,
Oh,
DC.
that's right.
Yeah.
But even DC is more syllables than all those other ones.
You can think of like really funny one word, like cat. No one has cat.
Yeah. Arm.
Also,
Yeah, arm. Yeah, that's it.
also rat. There's rat.
Mhm.
Sat. If you want to be sat, you can be sat.
That's good. Very good.
There's a new
Anyways,
challenge to all of our patrons.
Fat.
See the most creative you can be in the fewest characters.
I like this.
There's
I like
also
where we're going in. Mhm.
We're just going to get
Anyways,
longer now.
so for
Just be at.
you could just shut the fuck up while I close out the show. For $3 a month, you can get on Patreon and get ad-free episodes, early access to this shit, and a bunch of other perks. Spooky season's coming, folks, and we're excited about it. I think that'll pretty much do it. Anything else, gentlemen?
That's gonna do it for me.
Cool. We will see you on Tuesday for the live episode of Hometown Ghost Stories. Goodbye.
Hey everybody, Rob from Hometown Ghost Stories here. Wanted to thank you for checking out this piece of side content. If you really liked it, you can head over to Patreon, and for as little as $3 a month, you can get access to these a little bit early. Also, we are doing member-only stuff on Patreon, such as our History of Ghosts series, where we talk about like Andreos, Banshees, we let you know where they came from, their origin, some stories associated with them. It's a lot of fun. Until then, if you look over this shoulder here, you can find one of our earlier episodes. And if you look down here, we got another side content episode. Until next time, from Jesse, myself, and I guess even Dave, thanks for watching Hometown Ghost Stories.